Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So, today's video, let's just say I'm basically going to be trolling myself for the entirety of this video and for the purpose of sort of educating you slash taking the piss out of myself slash entertainment value. Whatever. Basically, this video is going to be about the biggest mistakes that I've made on my fitness journey so far. And to be honest, pretty much all of these relate back to the start of my fitness journey. You know, where I didn't really have my qualifications as such, or I was like still very new to the industry, so I was still quite ignorant to a lot of the things that I know right now. But yeah, hopefully this video is going to provide some form of entertainment value, but you're also going to be able to learn a little bit from my mistakes. So as much as this is here to troll myself and to make use of my fucking shitty past, hopefully it will obviously provide you guys with a little bit of some form of education so you can learn from my mistakes. But straight away then we'll go straight in with the first mistake I made. And the first mistake I made was at the very, very start of my training career. I only trained chest and biceps. It's the typical bro thing to do. It's what every single teenage guy would have done the first time they stepped into a gym. And, you know, I know obviously it's a common theme and it's a running joke amongst the fitness community, but I genuinely did only train chest and biceps. I used to literally go in, I did maybe a couple of sets on chest press, maybe a few push-ups on the power plate thing in my old gym. If you guys have had a power plate in your gym, you'll know that those things are fucking useless. But yeah, I used to do a few sets on chest press, power plate press-ups. I used to attempt dumbbell flies with the worst form in history. That's another point I'll come on to later on. And yeah, and then obviously for biceps, I just used to do the standard thing of dumbbell curling with the heaviest weights possible and literally shifting the weight up just like this and feeling like I was going to break my spine any fucking minute. But yeah, so I used to literally do that, what, 3 times a week, something like that? That'd be the only times that I'd used to go into the gym. It was terrible, man, trust me. Like, I hated it. I can't believe how stupid I was, but that's just what I ended up doing. And because of that, I ended up actually creating some form of imbalances in my posture. You probably won't see it as much now, but basically my shoulders used to sit forward quite a lot, obviously because of the amount of benching and pressing work that I was doing. And because I didn't sit my shoulder blades back like I know how to do now, it ended up bringing my shoulder blades forward, which meant I was hunching over as such, and that obviously inhibited my bench press progression in the long run. And it's something that I'm still kind of fixing now, even a few years down the line. And also because of that, obviously my biceps got pretty strong, but I, of course, obviously rounded over my shoulders and meant that my back was slightly weak. So it took me a long time to kind of fix my posture a little bit, and it's pretty much up to a standard now where I think I'm okay with it. But the lesson from this one, guys, is, you know, don't overtrain certain muscle groups compared to others, because you'll end up creating some form of posture issues, and you'll look like a fucking idiot walking around as you're walking around like this. I'm not joking, I used to walk around like that, it used to be terrible. But anyway, let's go to the next point. Alright, second mistake I used to make then, guys, was, you know, again, another typical bro thing. I never actually trained legs. Literally, right, so my thought process like 4 years ago, right, was because I was actually born with like pretty big legs. I've always had like kind of like thickish legs or whatever. So my thought process was I don't need to train legs because they are already big. And yeah, you can just tell how stupid that is already, but like that was the way I used to think. I was literally only obsessed with chest and biceps back in the day, so I never used to train legs. And it was obviously only until a few years down the line that I obviously started to develop my physique more and realised just how important training legs was, especially for the release of testosterone. Obviously, as many of you guys will know, or hopefully know at least anyway, the most amount of testosterone released into the body, which obviously is the hormone responsible for growth, the majority of that is actually released after training the lower body. So it was only really until I actually realised that I actually neglected training legs. And for a while it meant that I was obviously catching up with my legs, and it meant that my DOMs at the start were absolutely horrendous. Seriously, my leg day DOMs were disgusting, like nowhere near the levels of what they are now. So, but yeah, the lesson to take away from this one then, guys, really is, you know, don't neglect training legs. For the simple reason, of course, you know, obviously with squats and things like that, it's going to help to improve your posture, help improve your core strength, but also it's going to release the most amount of testosterone into the body, which of course is then going to help your upper body development as well. So that's one reason why you should not be training, you should be training legs, should I say. But that actually leads me straight on to point number 3 then, which is actually relatable to somewhat to that last point, which is my form back in the day was awful. Literally, I think I remember looking at my Instagram feed from a couple of years ago, and like one of my form videos on squats, Jesus Christ, it was terrible. Literally, my hips were shaking all over the place. I didn't get anywhere near to full depth. It was pretty much a quarter squat, I think, if anything. My stance was wrong. My knees kept caving inwards and things like that. The rep was terrible. Literally goddamn awful. And, you know, it wasn't just the squats. It was the same on bench press when I actually started benching. It was the same with bicep curls. Everything about it. I was the typical bro back then. I was ego lifting the entire time. And it's no wonder that I never made actually much progression. Back then I was obviously lifting a lot heavier than what I do now. But my physique was nowhere near what it is right now. And that's simply because my form was shocking. So I was not executing the exercise properly. I wasn't efficiently moving each muscle group. I wasn't getting the right contraction. And I wasn't taking the muscle through the full range of motion. These are all the key parts that come with, obviously, the whole point of hypertrophy. The only way that you're going to be able to grow muscle is if you actually focus on form, execution, and full range of motion with each muscle group. Those are the things that I did not focus on back in the day. I just kept shifting weight thinking that was the only way I was going to get massive. And it was a bit of a shock in reality when I realised that I was getting nowhere and all I was doing was actually getting injured. So I know it's a typical story, but it is completely true. The one thing you can learn from that point, guys, is literally no matter how much you're shifting, no matter how much your ego tends to grow with lifting all these big massive weights, if you cannot execute an exercise properly, if you cannot take a muscle through the full range of motion, if you can't perform the right movement patterns for things like benching, squat, deadlift, stuff like that, and if you can't perfect those movements and keep them efficient, you are not going to get the maximum benefits from that exercise. In fact, you won't get anywhere near as much of the gains out of those exercises if you don't focus on those things. My advice on this one is, be a perfectionist. Constantly look at your form on all of these exercises and think, where can I improve? What can I do slightly differently in my technique that's going to be able to help me recruit more muscle fibers or, be more efficient with that movement pattern? That's the way you got to look at these things. But anyway, let's move to the next point. All right, so the next mistake I made then is, back in the day, I never tracked macros. Absolutely never. I think I actually gave MyFitnessPal a go like one day and I was like, oh, fuck this. This is too hard. I was like, I think it just took too long. I think I was just taking forever to like put all the foods and stuff like that and scan them all in and stuff. And I was like, fucking hell, this is too long. I can't be arsed with this. Deleted the app. And at that point, I was just like basically freeballing in terms of my food intake. I had no idea how much protein I was getting. I had no idea what my calorie intake was or anything like that whatsoever. And because of that, I put that down to the fact that I didn't actually get any benefits out of my training whatsoever because my nutrition was nowhere near as good. And I put that solely down to the fact that I didn't track my macros. Now, I'm not saying that you can't like get away with tracking macros and get success from your journeys. No doubt about it. I've seen plenty of people who don't track macros who still get good results because they have a good knowledge and understanding of food and portion sizes. But especially for beginners, and I think for the majority of people, tracking macros is just really, really simple and easy once you get down to it, and it's something that's just so helpful with your training. When it came to the fact, when I actually started tracking macros properly and once I understood it fully, I was able to eat more food and still get better results. I was able to keep a more consistent intake of my protein, so therefore obviously that helped with muscle recovery and with muscle growth. And it obviously inevitably led to the discovery of flexible dieting, which meant that I could actually start eating more of the foods I enjoyed without feeling guilty about it. But again, this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. But one big mistake I made was I didn't track macros at the start. And I personally think that tracking macros is just a very, very good way of learning about different food groups, about, how many calories are in certain portions and stuff like that. And eventually you'll get to the point where you become very good at tracking macros. You kind of know what kind of food sources or what types of food, and you roughly know what their macros are going to be like. It's a very, very valuable skill to have. So that covers that point. But this goes straight on to the next point, which is the next mistake I made. I didn't believe in supplements. Literally, if anyone knew me like 3-4 years ago, you'd have known that I was dead against like whey protein and stuff like that. I literally considered that shit on the same level as steroids and stuff. I was like, I literally hated supplements so much. I was totally against it. And then obviously nowadays, you guys obviously have seen some of the supplements and stuff that I have. But there's a bit of a different story here. So I didn't believe in supplements because I was just simply uneducated. I thought they were the same classification as steroids and things like that. But that was stupid. The way I now look at supplements, of course, something that I would have said in one of my previous videos on my channel, which hopefully you guys would have seen, is, supplements are, they're not the be all and end all. They're not going to get you the results that you want, but they can play a massive, massive part in your overall diet. And the way your overall diet is shaped is what's going to help you change your body. So, my views have changed now. When it comes to supplements, I'm not as naive. I know for a fact that supplements are there literally to supplement my diet. And the only time that I use supplements is to plug in the missing gaps of my actual natural diet to help me achieve the recommended intake that I want, and obviously to then support my diet overall, which is then going to help change my physique. So to kind of round off on that point then, guys, of course, is, that mistake of never taking supplements and stuff. You still don't really need to take supplements. You just need to be very smart in your approach with using them. Alright, next mistake in the long list of stupid, fucked up shit that I did at the start of my training career. So next mistake I made was I was never consistent with my training routine. I was very much one of those people that was changing the way I trained every 2 or 3 weeks to shock the muscles. Jesus Christ, I can't tell you how much I fucking hate that phrase now. But I was that guy. I was there like, I need to shock my muscles and stuff like that. So, I was doing things like supersets on like chest or whatever like that. And then a few weeks after that, I was changing to GVT for my chest. Like 2 or 3 weeks after that, I was then changing to like Wendler's or something like that. I was never consistent. And because of that, I never actually got the results that I desired. Something that I feel that so many people do these days is they are too quick to change their program without seeing it through. And for that reason alone, they don't actually get the results that they want. And to give you a bit more of an example of this, right, I'll quickly skim over with what I do with my clients. So with my own clients right now, I design their training programs or their training blocks. They follow that for 6 to 8 weeks, and then obviously the next block comes around and I make some changes. Many people expect that I will completely change the program, but no. All I will literally do is potentially change the rep scheme slightly depending on what their goals are, and I might increase or decrease volume depending on feedback and stuff like that and how they're recovering. Other than that, the only things I actually change are probably I swap out maybe like an isolation exercise, whether it be like a standing barbell curl or something like that, and I might switch it out to a preacher curl. Something like that. I don't make that many changes. Why? Because I don't want to change a winning formula. At the end of the day, the reason that you succeed with a training program is, you follow a training program, you progress with it week by week, and then if you look from where you started at week 1 to week 8 and you've made massive gains in terms of your strength, in terms of like the amount of volume, like total volume lifted and stuff like that, that's where you're going to get the progress. But you're never going to be able to measure that progress if you're constantly changing your program, and you're never going to give your body enough time to adapt and give you more time to keep obviously forcing stress upon the body to keep adapting over time. So key point here, guys, is you need to be consistent with your training routine. Whatever training it is that you're doing and stuff like that, give it 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, and compare your results or compare the way that you look and stuff like that from like week 1 to week 8. If you've made significant progress, don't change your winning formula. But if you get to week 8 and you've not made any significant results or any like significant strength gains and stuff, then yes, it might be time to look at completely changing your routine up and changing things around. But for the most part, 9 times out of 10, most people just need to stick to a routine for more than 6 or like 4 or 6 weeks to actually start seeing the results. Alright guys, final few mistakes coming up now then. So the next one refers back to, if you guys would have seen my like kind of background story, my first ever video on my channel. This one kind of goes back to that, which is, I ate super clean and very low carb. I very much listened to all the bullshit theories and all the bullshit myths back in the day. I used to eat super clean. I think this was before I actually tracked my macros as well. I used to eat super clean. It was literally chicken, brown rice, broccoli, 3, 4, 5 times a day or whatever, and maybe and then like some days as well, like depending on like if it was a weekend or something like that, I would specifically do low carbs and literally cut carbs out and stuff like that. If I had a cheat meal, like it would literally be like pandemonium in my house because I'd be fretting, I'd be freaking out and shit like that. I ate super clean and it was terrible. I literally hated my diet. Hated it. I hated every single meal. And because of that, I never really enjoyed it. And I often found that I was more prone to cheating, more prone to cheat meals and things like that. And then obviously I'd start worrying about having cheat meals and fucking up my progress, and it was just literally all a vicious cycle. But it all started with the fact that I wasn't enjoying my diet. And you know, something you guys will now know, obviously if you follow my content regular, you know that I'm now a big fan of flexible dieting. So what you can learn from this is, of course, you don't have to go super strict with your diet to get results. Remember, of course, that fat loss pretty much comes with just being in a calorie deficit, and of course when it comes to muscle gain, it's just all about being in a calorie surplus. As long as you hit your certain macronutrient targets, you can achieve that in any way possible or whatsoever, whichever suits you. And now I'm a big proponent of adherence. Adherence meaning that, you know, I want to set up my diet in a way which suits me. So I eat as many times in a day as I would like to, which fits my lifestyle. I eat the foods that I very much enjoy eating. I now look forward to every single meal that I have. And, you know, the way that my diet is just set up overall, it just suits me. And that's the key thing. I now look forward to every single meal. And even when I'm in a deficit like I am right now on this little shred that I'm doing, I don't even feel like I'm dieting. Simply because I'm eating the foods that I enjoy. And that's the kind of like ethos, or that's the kind of ideology I want to get across with most people. And that's the way that I want most people to actually live with their diet. So learning from my mistake there, you know, my mistake was I ate super clean. I ended up cheating on my diet. I ended up rebelling against my diet and fucking myself up pretty much all the time. But nowadays, my diet is much more flexible, it's more sustainable, it's more suited to me. And because of that, I have no feel like for the need to cheat and things like that. But that covers that point. And then we're going to go on to the final one, I think it is. Yeah, the final mistake I made was, you know, I thought I had to do cardio. Something I've spoken about before. I used to do, what was it? I think it was like half an hour cardio at the end of every single training session, something like that. Because again, I thought I needed to do it to lose more fat. And yeah, that was not a nice time, because I used to hate my time on the cross trainer. Those 30 minutes literally felt like hell. I fucking hated it. So yeah, key thing for me then really is, you know, you don't need to do cardio. This is something I've spoken about before. When it comes to fat loss, all that matters is the deficit size. And you know, now obviously with a little bit more experience and a few more, like, or a bit more experience behind me and knowing a few more tactics, I know that fat loss solely relies on the deficit, and you don't need to do cardio to achieve that. As long as you are in a calorie deficit and as long as you're training consistently, then that's all that really matters. And you can do that whichever way you want. And for me, that means that obviously I can now focus on weight training. That's all that matters to me. So yeah, when it comes to cardio, just remember my advice on this is just use it as a tool. It doesn't need to be set into your program straight away. If anything, even like with myself now and with my own clients, I don't actually bring in cardio at a very early stage. It's something that I use very sparingly and only if it's needed to be done. My preferred way of obviously getting over plateaus or increasing the size of deficit, I would much rather increase my expenditure through something which is very low impact and easy to recover from. So pretty much like just more walking on a daily basis, increasing my steps, or of course increasing my training volume through weights and stuff like that. I of course will obviously drop calories here and there and stuff, but again, that's something I don't really do as much. I use that as a last stint. But when it comes to cardio, I will only bring it in very small amounts and bring it in if it's absolutely necessary. So even right now with cardio, I would only start by adding maybe like a 10-minute Stairmaster session at the end of my weight training program. And I might increase that frequency over time if I need to increase my deficit size further. But other than that, guys, just remember with cardio, just use it as a tool. It's not something that's absolutely necessary. You can pretty much create the calorie deficit just by, you know, creating a training program which you enjoy doing and making sure that your calorie intake is set up so that you're in a sizable deficit. Simple as that. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to be the end of this video. So hopefully you've enjoyed hearing about all the stupid goddamn mistakes that I made. I imagine a few of those things you'll probably be able to relate to as well. But hopefully now as well you have actually learned from my mistakes as well, which was the whole point of this video. Hopefully you've learned from the mistakes that I've made, and obviously if you are going through some of those mistakes right now, hopefully with the way that I've explained those things, you now know what you need to be doing instead. But that's going to bring an end to the video here, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in another video soon. Peace out.